NASCAR is back on the road again as the Cup and Xfinity Series heads west to Wine Country and Sonoma, California's beautiful road course. We'll lay out the weekend for you, give you our best bets. So come on and take that ride down the back road with us. Why don't you?
It's a non-points race, but it is a short race. Checker flag. That's all this race is.
Stay from the stage.
What's going on, everybody? Welcome into the Backroad. It is In Between Media's NASCAR betting show. Elliot Hicks and Seth Woolcock here with you as we are headed to Sonoma Raceway this weekend. We don't have Rod with us. He'll be at the track, though. That'll be fun to watch, as it's always a fun weekend out there in Wine Country, Seth.
Yes, sir. The boys are back in town, coming off a huge weekend, cashing some tickets in the Windy City that is Chicago. Now we head to, as you mentioned, our co-host Rod's neck of the woods out in beautiful Wine Country. So excited for another weekend of back-to-back road course racing. And dude, there's so many storylines, so many bettable drivers coming in this one. I can't wait to break it all down right here on the back row, baby.
Yeah, no doubt about it. A couple road course races in a row here. I feel like our cards kind of look the same, but still some good insight to be had. First, we'll look back in the rear view at the Chicago street course reaction, give you a little news update, as well as go through some burning questions for the rest of the year and relate how that'll relate to the odds. Then we'll break down Sonoma and the Horizon forecast, take a look at the weekend before we go into our parking garage props and give you our best picks for the Cup and Xfinity Series, which we've already started to trickle into our IBT Racing Family Discord chat. Again, our exclusive home for being able to chat with all of us, myself, Seth, Rod,
Yes.
Ryan, the expert for My Fantasy Race, and all our fun crew in there that they shout out some good bets for us too. Gives you access to that exclusive weekly betting model that has always been helpful to us too, and has really put some good bets together for us. And it also gives us entry into our memorabilia giveaways. Most recently, we gave away a Joey Logano signed polo that I believe we're still waiting on the next member of the IBT Racing family. Will also win that polo because of Trav's generosity. So shout out to him. Shout out to everyone in there. The link to that in the episode description if you'd like to join. And we really like to have you over there as part of that crew.
Yeah, absolutely. It is so much fun over there. All the guys and gals, we were all riding that SVG parlay last weekend together. So super profitable. It was really cool to see that. A lot of people in the YouTube comments as well. So we appreciate you guys. And a lot more coming over there to the IBT Racing family as well. We're also going to be expanding later this fall as well to having some football content in there, some exclusive stuff over there for you. And also we're going to be gamifying this thing a little bit here soon, Elliot. So just a little bit of stuff kind of on the horizon. Now's the time to get in and hey, $3.99 per month. Come try it out. You're going to get yourself a signed Joey Logano polo if you're the first one over there. So test the waters, have fun with us. We appreciate you and appreciate everyone riding along with us already today here at 3:02 p.m. Eastern time. Marcus saying, first hello. Who's everyone's pick for Sonoma? As always, he's going with his man, C. Bell. And Kutch checking in right here about an hour before live. Elliot saying, he's sticking with this guy, SVG. You got him on the shirt this weekend in that Wendy's blue shirt over there. We appreciate that. Nick checking in as well. Laying out his entire top five for us. Tyler Reddick, Ty Gibbs, Chris Buescher, AJ Allmendinger, and Kyle Larson. No SVG. Ooh.
Oh, thinks that idiot's going to run into issues. We should start. I know there's a guy on Twitter. You know how Bob Pockers puts out his top five every week. There's a guy on Twitter that goes and bets all those numbers and puts all the top five in a parlay. We should start doing that with Nick's top five. Throw that in a parlay and see what happens.
Little Nick Daddy special. I like it. Blaze Wolf in the chat as well, saying missed the past couple shows live, but glad to be back with y'all. Hey, we appreciate you, Blaze. Blaze, I know, is an IBT Racing family member. I'm pretty sure he was on that SVG ticket, and maybe even the JHN top 10s we've been running too for a little bit. So, Elliot, it's been a really fun time, and we'll talk about it, but it feels like such a refreshing time in the NASCAR betting scene where we kind of have this like new crop of drivers that we've kind of been betting on, and we've kind of just been running with them this summer so far.
Yeah, it's been fun and it's been profitable. Before we get there, though, shout out to everyone listening on Apple Podcasts as well. Please leave us a review. Tell us what you think. And as well, Talking West Tennessee down there, 101.5 FM, 8 p.m. on Saturday nights. You can check us out there. Links to everything good in the episode description. But all else, the most important thing you can do to help us out, is like and subscribe. If you like what we're putting out there, if you haven't subscribed yet, we appreciate that more than anything. But we love the people who go above and beyond, because we try our best to go above and beyond for all of you as well.
Yeah, no, it's been sweet, man. We're continuing to get closer to 1,600 subscribers, so we appreciate all the support. It's very humbling, and we are very blessed to have everyone ride along with us each and every week. And hope you guys enjoy the show, and hopefully cash some bets along the way. But more than anything, man, great to chop it up with you and our great producer Nicolette in the back end each and every week.
No doubt about it. All right, enough with the yap. Let's get to the racing talk as we look back in the rear view. Man, you really don't even need a full word to describe the Chicago street course experience. You just need these three initials, SVG. Shane van Gisbergen sweeps the weekend. We'll start with the Xfinity race. It was a great battle at the end between those Red Bull WeatherTech cars of SVG and Connor Zilisch. And the teacher gets the best of the student there. The elder statesman gets the best of the young hotshot. A little bit of a rough move there at the end, some people say. Do you think that was fair or foul at the finish from the Kiwi, Shane van Gisbergen?
I think if roles were reversed there, we'd see something similar. He definitely did get pinched, Connor Zilisch, but hey, man, at this point, that's SVG football, baby, right? That's kind of what we've come to expect ever since Austin Hill kind of did a similar move to him at one point in time. So, I think that's a pretty fair move. This is NASCAR. This isn't Formula One. This isn't, supercars racing out there in Australia. So I think it was a fair move overall, but I can definitely understand why someone like Connor Zilisch would be upset, especially because then he just had to fight for his life to come up runner-up.
Yeah, and that was one of those things. I think it was that Austin Hill moment you mentioned where SVG kind of realized, hey, I can rough up these guys and everything's going to be fine. So I was able to take the win there. The Cup race started with Michael McDowell being the dominant driver early, fell victim to some attrition there, had a throttle cable issue that knocked him out there. SVG gets to the front, and he stays there and claims the weekend sweep. Great work, of course, from that 88 team and everything like that. And some late excitement as well that affected with the in-season challenge as well between Alex Bowman and Bubba Wallace getting into it and getting together, and Bubba Wallace ends up spinning out. We'll talk more about both of these drivers as the night goes on. But any particular leans or thoughts about that wild stuff in the last 10 laps of the race?
No, honestly, I kind of have a whole thought process on Bubba. So I think I'll kind of put a pin in it for now. But on the whole, this was a great weekend in Chicago. It felt like the city really embraced it. And that was despite there seemed like there were some rollbacks, some budget cuts in this year. Ellie, I don't know if you heard, but media center and a parking garage type situation, not as many suites that people could buy out.
That parking garage is actually not terrible. That's where I parked when I was in that area in December. It's a pretty decent parking garage. It kind of works, but you're right. They didn't use the whole Lollapalooza field area for the concerts. They just had a little concert stage. They didn't. For the first year before the rain, it was essentially intended to be, we're going to throw this music festival.
Sure.
There's a race going on too. This year, last year, the contract, we're not sure if it's coming back. They were like, okay, we're going to throw Zach Brown Band Saturday night. Zilisch was front row, drowning his sorrows in the Busch Light after finishing second there. But then thankfully the race turned out well because there was no rain this weekend too. We actually got to see a dry weekend of racing, which was really a sight for sore eyes.
No, it certainly was, especially, I think everyone probably about this time last week is starting to, I wonder how many hits on Google Chicago weather had, right? Because that was kind of on
from the Carolinas, I'm sure.
Yeah, everyone was kind of keeping an eye on it and ended up having a dry race, and SVG super dominant. I mean, we could go on for an hour, have a podcast just about this guy. It's been so profitable to continue to bet him. I missed out on his first win at Chicago, but I don't think I've missed out on any outright since for Shane van Gisbergen, Cup, Xfinity, you name it. This guy's just been super profitable to bet on, and arguably one of the more fun drivers to back I've seen, probably in the last, decade or so.
Yeah, it's been fun to watch, and he's been dominant. We'll talk about him plenty. But we both had some good weeks on the cards last week, too. Nailed the SVG parlay, as well as the separate outright pick, which I think you had as well. In terms of my other bets, hit the Kyle Busch and Ryan Preece top 10s. Again, don't know why Preece was out there. It's such a big number.
Yeah.
We'll touch on him later. Ty Gibbs has been the guy that close. I had his top Toyota bet. Larson over Bell in one of those matchups kind of hedged. Chris Bell, sorry, Marcus, it was not his greatest day last week. He wasn't really in contention even before he ran into issues. Also hit the winning number bets over 45.5, over 50.5, and went 50-50 on the in-season challenge picks. Had the 10 over the 6, thanks to Hocevar for blowing Keselowski out of that. The 60 over the 4, the 42 over the 9, and the 43 over the 47. And the Xfinity Series, Austin Green over Brandon Jones was my lock of the week.
Yep.
It hit. Again, not the last time you'll hear Austin Green in this show as well in Xfinity, even though we unfortunately don't have the top 10 market. But didn't matter for us either. Like I said, you had a heck of a card last week as well.
I would just like to in the arms of an angel, pour one out for the Xfinity top 10 market, man. It might never come back. It's been a couple weeks. It's been tough out here in these streets, having to, get invested in other ways now. But man, just such a shocker. But yeah, great weekend for you. I'm glad you had a fantastic weekend. I think I did as well. Almost 16 units coming back with me in the green. Biggest weekend of the season so far. SVG sweep parlay, the SVG outright. Chris Buescher over Will Brown. That felt like a weird one. Will Brown then poor Will Brown comes all the way over, gets stuffed in that same wreck with Carson Hocevar.
Same with Jack Perkins in Xfinity too. I think he got dumped in the first 5 laps. So SVG may have swept, but his supercar buddies didn't have such a good weekend.
No, they ain't coming back for probably after that one. And Ty Gibbs top 10. I feel like I can finally start trusting Ty Gibbs a little bit. I shouldn't have bet a top 10. I guess I should have just bet a top 5 or top 3 after the run he had. So yeah, great. You and Nicolette, we had a great talk after the show as well about a little F1 action. Was able to find that Lando outright, the McLaren double podium. So some F1 fun coming through for the kid. But man, talk about freaking heartbreaker. McNasty top 10. That felt like the lock of the weekend. And we were riding high at plus money heading into Sunday, sitting on the pole. I was like, man, he's definitely getting a top 10. And wow, I mean, just a heartbreaker. But we'll talk more about our guy McNasty, who's on the thumbnail later tonight, I'm sure.
Yeah, no doubt about it. Heck of a weekend in Chicago. Some comments here. Kush used to work in a parking garage. Hey, there's some nice spots there. It's pretty solid spots there. Andrew popping in as well where we were chatting. Thanks for joining us tonight.
What's up, Andrew?
As well, Chicago was a great weekend. Not sure if it'll be back next year. Again, San Diego Street Course might be the option. We go back to Chicagoland. But either way, it was nice again to see a dry weekend this year. And something that we can, if we lose it for a couple of years, we can look back fondly instead of, oh no, these were complete messes in the rain. As we look ahead too, I don't have a particular thumbnail for this because I don't know if we're going to talk about it that much. But the Clash is going to be back at Bowman Gray Stadium next year. It was pretty fun there. I'll leave the door open for you if you have any other extended thoughts about it.
No, I mean, we were hearing kind of these rumors that this potentially be heading to Pennsylvania or, maybe just another Clash-like race would be heading to that state, that track down there near Penn University. So, a little surprised to see this move made this early, but it makes perfect sense, man. Like, you don't just buy a track and put the money in that NASCAR did and have it be such a banger of an event. I felt like overall where it felt like a big deal. And just do it for 1 year. So happy it's going back. And I'm sure that will be a fun rip for a lot of people down in that area as well.
Yeah, no doubt. And I think as part of that deal, they've put it together that they'll be racing there at least once every 5 years, whether that's a points race or the Clash. It's a different story. The bigger news this week, though, some more court news. I know we're probably tired of hearing about stuff in court, but that injunction that removed the legal ruling that said you have to treat these guys as charter teams.
Yep.
The 3 from 2311 and the 3 from Front Row. There will not be a further rehearing on that. So as of 7 days from whenever it was, Tuesday that this happened, they could take the charters away and have these guys have to race at open teams. That could come as soon as the Dover weekend, that they'll have to race as open teams. Again, it's almost never happened in the next gen era, in this charter era, to where you have a whole bunch of cars show up and have a bunch of guys risking being DNQs. But if this had happened a week earlier with what happened to Bubba Wallace, he would have been the DNQ if he was open. So definitely some maneuvering that can be done here. We'll have to see what happens if they do, if they're just going to operate with 30 charters and the however many max 10 open teams, if NASCAR is going to try to do anything with those charters in particular. Either way, it's going to be intriguing to watch the next couple of weeks to see if this really does happen next week at the Monster Mile.
Yeah, it's a tough scene right now, man. Like, I think all 5 of these cars and drivers affected currently, they should be good to continue to qualify for races coming up, just because we're not going to see a full field likely until we get back to Daytona. Probably that's probably the next run. We'll see where things could get a little sketchy. However, I just think in general, I don't know if Bob Jenkins' pockets are as deep as Michael Jordan's at this like particular standpoint, right? Like, I think this potentially leaves a mark on his wallet, on the team's wallet. And like, I already wonder, thinking about this deeper after this ruling came out, Elliot, like, is this maybe impacting their performance on the season already? Like, highest driver in the points, Zane Smith, 23rd, Gilliland, Todd Gilliland, our guy from last season, top 20 machine, great for matchups, great for some long shot top 10s, 30th in the points. Noah Gragson, he's regressed as well. He's in 33rd, and just 8 top 10s so far this season for this team, 1 top 5. And I feel like between all of them, like in 19 races, that's absolutely terrible. I mean, that is terrible, dude. Like, that's a 14% top 10 rate. These guys had more speed last season. Was part of that. You had a veteran like Michael McDowell mixing it up for you, potentially. But man, like, the only bet that I've had on this gang all season was that head-to-head with Buescher and Gilliland in Atlanta, and like, that did not hit. So like, I don't think I'm going to be betting these guys for a long time. And between that and like the threat of drivers leaving for 23-11, it's just not a good scene for either one of these teams right now.
No, and it's tough. I feel like with Front Row Motorsports, though, it's the fact that you expanded to 3 full-time, which they hadn't done in a while.
Yeah.
And you just have young drivers in the fold there. Todd Gilliland, I feel like, was never a guy that was going to be a win every week championship threat wherever he was.
Sure.
Noah Gragson, we saw the talent in Xfinity. He's still kind of finding his footing in the Cup Series. And Zane Smith, same deal. Truck Series champion a few years ago. A guy who, again, just trying to find their footing. Not everybody can click right away. I feel like it's a deal where you're right. They're definitely who I'm more worried about than Michael Jordan and Denny Hamlin. If this does linger into next year, which I think they're going to try to wrap up the trial over the winter. I think it's going to start in December and hopefully be wrapped up before we get to Daytona in February. But could definitely be something to watch where you could really see some guys jump ship and things like that. We won't go too far in the tinfoil hat. The only thing tinfoil hat-ish that I'm curious about is if NASCAR is going to temporarily repossess these charters. They're not going to go and sell them on any sort of permanent basis, because that will look bad in the courts. Sure. And then they'll say, oh, maybe we need this injunction back, because there will be some irreparable harm. But I wonder if there are any deals. And I think I mentioned this a few weeks ago. If there's anything where it's like, hey, we've got these charters sitting here. Hey, Justin Marks, if you want Zillich to be guaranteed in some races, here you go. Use one of these. Hey, Dale, you want to bring that 40 car back out that's on your shirt there, the Traveler car? Here, take this charter. You're in the race.
Yeah.
It's things like that. I don't know. I don't know if that could happen. The France family themselves were running to also run one of their own cars. Buy a car from Hendrick, field it with Spire or whatever. Maybe they say, hey, we're going to use this charter. Rick Hendrick, go build me a car. We're going to run our guy with it at Watkins Glen in August or something like that. Again, that's all tinfoil hat. Wait and see. But something that'll be interesting to watch as well. For the rest of this year, I think that all 6 of these teams will continue to enter as normal. And then it's just going to be a wild winter. We'll have plenty to talk about this offseason with this lawsuit.
Yeah, I was so disrespectful. I said five drivers and teams. Kind of forgot Riley Herbst was like still ripping around there 35th, but God bless him.
And that was the deal too, where we feel like the Herbst family made a big investment there that hopefully doesn't fall apart from there. But before we get to the offseason and all this trial stuff, there's plenty going on with the rest of this season. And we're going to go through some of the burning questions that we have this week. We're going to go through some of the biggest questions that I feel like we want answered, that the fans want answered, and potentially how they loop back into gambling as well. And I feel like our first 2 here kind of go hand in hand. So I'll start here with number 1. Can Carson Hocevar put it all together? We've seen this year, of course, he's a young driver, second year, a couple races in 23 as well. He's been the talk of the garage, both for good reasons and for bad reasons. Still has some of those boneheaded moments, but now he's got the speed too. And they just have been, it's been very difficult for them to put a full race together. They got the P2 at Nashville when everything worked out, but Michigan, they blow a tire and we're probably going to be short on fuel. You have the whole situation with Ricky Stenhouse. You have the motor blow at Charlotte. They've got some speed. We know Spire has speed. Same thing with Michael McDowell. Has some speed. Throttle cable breaks. You're not able to even be in contention for the win there. I have yet to listen to it, but I know Hocevar was on the Dale Jr. download this week and apparently said some pretty interesting things that kind of put us in his mind a little more. So that would be a good thing to listen to continue this conversation about Hocevar. But it'll be interesting to see this year because we know that he's got the talent. We know that he's got the speed. He just needs to make sure he and his team have his head on straight, and they could be able to find victory lane, get in the playoffs, or put themselves in a good position. But that's going to be one of the more important things to watch this year is, can the 77 team really put it all together?
Well, when we saw that legit speed, really start to take form, I would say late spring, early summer, like the Coke 600 around that time when it was like, oh my gosh, this is like legit. Like Carson Hocevar legit has race winning speed a lot of weeks. It's the first time I feel like I've seen that from one of these lesser funded teams since like the 2022 Trackhouse, right? Since Ross Chastain was kind of the hot thing on the street. Similar driver, kind of mentor and trainee, a little bit of a relationship there as well. So it kind of makes sense. And I think all together, Carson Hocevar does have the speed, but whether it's what happens at Chicago when he gets a little too crazy after, kind of falling back after qualifying super well. There's some stuff that's going to happen. And I think what's interesting from a betting perspective on this as well, Elliot, is that the books after those couple runs where he was having race winning speed and looked like he was going to potentially win a race, they started treating him like that. I mean, we were getting him down to 17-1, 20-1. People were betting him outright. You're betting top 10s at minus money at some point. They've pulled back a little bit because his road course prowess isn't as consistent. He's still a speed qualified top 10. Just last week, he had some speed off the truck in Mexico as well, just not kind of putting the finishes there together. So I'll be kind of interested to see how do the books treat him once we get kind of back to these traditional ovals. Are we still having to bet minus 130, plus 130 top 10s, or can we maybe get him back closer to 3-1 and 4-1, something like that for a top 10? Because he's one of those tough drivers to bet, dude, where it's just like we talked about, like you either have to bet the outright of the top 5 or you're probably not betting it.
Yeah, that's exactly the point I was going to make. We talked about it a few weeks ago. Minus money top 10 is not going to be worth it. An 18-1 outright is not going to be worth it.
Yeah.
It's basically the top 5 at, a plus 285, plus 300, something like that. Or it's a bust. But we know the kid has speed. And it's almost the same deal that we just talked about with the front row guys. Is you got to remember just how young these guys are. He didn't even have the full Xfinity deals. He just had a couple full-time truck seasons, ends up going straight from trucks to cup there. Still some things to work out. But he's definitely a guy that could be there. And there's plenty of guys in the field, too, as we segue into our next question. Will we be able to see a first-time winner find victory lane this season? Of course, Hocevar could be one of those guys, but there's a host of guys who we've talked about and waxed poetic about for top 10 numbers or for maybe taking a pinch at an outright, but we still haven't seen him get to victory lane yet.
Yeah, we kind of touched on this a little bit at the top of the show. We've seen this like new wave of drivers come in who have had a lot of speed. They've been threatening lately, but they're guys without Cup Series wins. You already brought up Hocevar, but how about Ryan Preece? This is a guy who's 14th in points after a massive penalty that got him DQ'd at Dega, running P2 in that race. Right now, this guy has 8 top 10s. That's as many as Chase Briscoe and Ryan Blaney, more than Tyler Reddick. That's how good Ryan Preece has been. And speaking of top 10s, like, can we just talk about legacy for a minute? We've been on this beat since the beginning. JHN, already 6 top 10s so far this season. He had 7 career top 10s coming into this year. And these are at like legit tracks too. It's Pocono, it's Mexico City, it's Kansas, it's Texas. Isn't it like just super speedway top 10s for JHN? So currently 20th in points. 1 spot above him is Ty Gibbs, who I think has shown a ton of speed after, like, I left this guy for dead, Elliot. Like, if you remember one of these segments we did early in the season, I said, this guy needs to go back to Xfinity to figure this out. And he's had the most speed on road courses aside from Shane van Gisbergen so far this season. So with an average finish of 8.8 over the past 5 races, I think Ty Gibbs definitely has a lot of speed as well. I think the question is, though, can any of these guys find victory lane, set themselves up for maybe a potential playoff run if it's in the next couple weeks, or if it's after that for a great dynamic 2026 season ahead for them?
Yeah, I think if you're going to see it before the playoffs start, I think it's either going to be Ty Gibbs at one of these 2 road courses, Sonoma or the Glen, which he's going to have to get by SVG to do it, or it's going to be at Daytona when we go back to the super speedway for the last chance. I think other than that, it's a situation where, of course, these guys have speed. All these 3 guys you mentioned, Preece, Gibbs, JHN, I have coin on all of them for the Sonoma race and for various things or another, but none of them are on the outright. You still have a Hendrick car that doesn't have a win. I would throw in, you still have a Gibbs car that doesn't have a win if it wasn't Ty Gibbs. The other 2 RFK veterans also did not have wins. The 2 2311 veterans, Tyler Reddick was in the championship 4 last year. They don't have wins. I mean, we just saw Chase Elliott get a win with only a handful of races left in the regular season. You know that the big dogs, the big teams that have been there and done that, they're going to need to go all in to try and get all of their drivers and their particular veterans that they think could have a shot at deep playoff runs and championships.
Yep.
They're going to want to get them the wins first, and that's going to make it so much tougher for the underdogs. But they've shown the speed that they can all do it. Preece, Gibbs, JHN, Hocevar, maybe, and again, it's anyone's game when you get to Daytona, any one of these other guys that could be first-time winner. It's just going to be really difficult. I feel like if it's not going to be one of those scenarios I mentioned, maybe you get somebody, playoff Talladega when you get to the round of 8. That would be a heck of a story. You can have anybody get their way to the championship 4, and instead the guy 27th in points gets the win. But it's just the opportunities are running out. But these are, I think, all of these guys that I mentioned, they're going to be Cup Series winners very, very soon.
You say this, but we gotta remember August is always a little bit of a weird time here. And we saw Chase Briscoe win on SHR's like last stand last year. They're fighting without a leg.
Notably not a first-time winner though. He had gotten it done previously, 22. Phoenix.
Sure, but we also saw like Austin Dillon and RCR.
Also not a first-time winner. Austin Dillon, Daytona 500 champion. I see the point you're making.
Eric Jones at Darlington a couple of like August.
Who also had won a bunch of races.
You're right.
I like the way you're going. Go ahead, bet Eric Jones, bet Austin Dillon, bet Kyle Busch still doesn't have a win. He's another guy I didn't even mention. With the RCR guys, they were all guys who had won before.
Well,
it's a big monkey off the back to get to your name for the first time.
Here's my question: what odds would you have to give me right now that one of these first-time winners, Hocevar, Gibbs, Preece, or JHN, one of those guys wins by the end of the season? What number would you give me? Just give me 2-1.
End of the season, I might not even take it at like a 7-1. Honestly, I might need like a 10-1 to take first-time winner in the remainder of at least the regular season. Maybe like an 8-1 for the whole year. I just think it's going to be tough because there's such a variety of winners. You get to the playoffs and you suddenly see.
I think Preece is going to win one.
Winners usually go away. I think Preece could have the best shot in terms of the traditional track. You could certainly see Ryan Preece go to Iowa and just whoop the field.
Yeah, it's a good. Yeah.
Gateway is a track that we're still kind of learning in the first round of the playoffs. I'm not saying it won't happen. It's just to get that first win as the pressure goes up, it's very, very difficult to pull off. And it does happen. Harrison Burton gets his push from Parker Retzlaff last year and takes the win to get into the playoffs in the second to last race of the regular season. It's going to be that, or it's going to be Ty Gibbs finally gets, I say gets by. If you have a situation where Gibbs is within striking range of the 88, you know that 88 is going around and Ty Gibbs is going to win that race.
A couple comments here I want to check in on. First, there's Didi checking in. What's up, Didi? Good to see you tonight. Thanks so much for tuning in. We also have our guy King checking in saying, Hocevar is words I cannot say now that we're radio syndicated. So
he's a dumb donkey.
Yeah. You can go. Yes, good.
And that's good. I think he has gone as far as admitting that sometimes. And that's one of those things. Young drivers, inexperienced drivers who don't have the racecraft quite built up, but they have the speed. They can do some silly things on the racetrack. Yep. That's pretty obvious.
We got our guy, Bob Bobner, our IBT Racing family member. Got to have a couple of whiskeys with Bob last year. Checking in as well, saying he's liking Busch and Chastain this week. Love to hear that. Some questions about SVG and street course. We'll certainly chat about that a little bit here later on. But Elliot, I think we should go to our third burning question. What do you say?
Yeah, and we've been talking about all night. There's so many young guys who have speed. And there's a lot of things that are going haywire in the world of 2311 racing. And we talked about the mess that Bubba Wallace got himself in racing around that 48. And in essence, clearing himself, running a guy into the wall, and then ended up spinning himself out, taking away a really good point set that they needed that could have put them plus 20, plus 25 on the cut line to the point where I think he's within 10. I think he might even be plus 3 on the cut line. Was this sort of behavior that we've seen a lot of times for Bubba Wallace? You're saying it could be the beginning of the end for Bubba at 2311.
I mean, for a guy who is trying to point his way into the playoffs, how he raced Alex Bowman at the end of that race in Chicago, who was on fresher tires, let me remind everybody, that's unacceptable. Like, pick your battles, baby. Like, I get the in-season tournaments, here, but Bubba's one of these guys I feel like has been walking around. I don't care about the in-season tournament. I'm not looking at it. And then you do that. Okay, buddy. But like, as a guy who bet 3 units on Bubba Wallace to get a win this year, not get to 100 races without a win, I'm kind of out on Bubba, man. Like, and I think based on what Denny said this week on Actions Detrimental, his podcast, like, I'm thinking maybe he's beginning to be too. I honestly think that Bubba's a free agent here in 2027. We've covered Corey Haim's story for a long time on this particular program. That guy is a rock star, certified rock star. We're talking about all these guys who could get wins in cup cars. You put Corey Haim in a cup car, I would say 2 years, he could probably pull one out, honestly. And Bubba's had some great runs this season, not taking anything away from him, but he has had stretches of terrible finishes for like 3 weeks in a row. Like, I'm talking deep 20s, 30, 30 plus, and we're in the midst of another one right now. like some of like, what happened at Pocono when we were betting on him, that was not his fault. Like that was just kind of bad luck there. Yeah. But then there's like this incident in Chicago. That's his fault, dude. Like just take the finish, take the points and run. And like, I've lost faith as a bettor because they used to do this thing where they unload fast at qualified top 5, and then they just couldn't make adjustments with Booty Barker in the gang. And now they can still unload fast, always good in practice. They can't qualify worth a dang right now. And then they have to hope that Bubba can get his way up through the pack because he usually has late run speed and can get you good finishes, but that's if he doesn't get mixed up in something. So again, my burning question here, was Chicago the beginning of the end for Bubba Wallace, who is now just 2 points above the cut line? I think it is. What do you say?
It's like I mentioned, 23-11 is going to be in a place where there's a lot of moving parts. And you mentioned it. Bubba Wallace, he can have good finishes. He's got speed. He's got talent. But what's the most important thing in the Cup Series nowadays, the way that the championship format is set up? Most important thing is wins. And he hasn't done that. And like you said, we're approaching 100 races, if we're not past it, 2022 Fall Kansas, since Bubba Wallace has got to win. And I don't know that I can really name more than a handful of times that he's been close since then. It's just one of those situations where, he made the right move at the right time, gets picked up by 23-11. They get the win early. They get another win the next year. It's just going to be wild to see. And if this were a more traditional team, I could easily say, okay, yeah, we're going to push him out at the end of the contract. You've got a guy in Corey Heim. Corey Heim is going to want to be in Cup before, what you said, at the end of 27, his deal expires, right?
Going into 27 after 26.
So the end of 26. Okay. Corey Heim could be Cup ready next year. I mean, he's
where's he going?
But see, that's the thing is if you see some movement here, I don't think they're going to kick Bubba out. Maybe they'll stick Heim in trucks for another year. Maybe
Reddick leaves though, because Reddick now has the clause in his contract where he can get out if he wants it, if he loses the charter. And
I would also say that could be a good cop out, but there's no better ride that's going to be open, and none of the better rides are going to kick their drivers out next year. But I do think for 27 it could be a possibility. And the thing with Heim is somebody could scoop him up. If it's a deal where Toyota says, hey, we can't give you a Cup ride, Chevy or Ford somehow gets something and say, hey, this might not be have the same upside as 23-11 does, but we'll put you in Cup right now. You don't have to keep dealing with this, beating up on everybody in the truck.
Time of year, baby.
Right now, it really is going to be a silly season. And Bubba Wallace now he is starting to creep into the spot where we could be sitting here this time next year having the same conversation about Bubba that we've all had about Daniel Suarez. Well, it was great that he made it. He got a couple of wins. He did pretty well, but then it just didn't work. There's other guys to put in this seat, and he could very well be out of this ride this time next year. I don't think that is too far a bridge to cross for sure.
All right, burning question number 4, a guy who is getting it done and getting some dubs for us bettors along the way here, Elliot.
Yeah, I mean, Shane van Gisbergen has done everything that he needed to do, getting not only 1 win, but 2 wins. And if he can get one of these 2 other road courses, as of right now, he'll be in the joint lead for wins in the Cup Series. And that gives you a lot of playoff points and puts you in a really good position. So my question is can Shane van Gisbergen be a playoff threat? And we know how the scheduling all works out, and that's going to be the most important thing. I don't think that he's going to be a guy that can contend for wins on ovals this year, but he may not have to. If he can get, say that we'll only give him 1 win out of the 2 road courses left. We'll say he wins Sonoma because we have the bets on him. We'll talk about it in a minute. And we'll say somebody nips him at Watkins Glen and gets past him. That still gives him 3 wins, gives him a boatload of playoff points if he can get another stage or 2. In that first round schedule, he's got Darlington, which is on the record saying it's his favorite track, whether he's good at it or not. You go to Gateway, Worldwide Technology Raceway, and then you go to Bristol, which I know is tough for him. He also is on the record saying Bristol is his least favorite track.
Yeah.
But if he can go through there and get 18th place in all 3 of those races, like an 18th, a 22nd, and like a 19th, with those playoff points and the issues you'll certainly see other guys have, that could get him through. I mean, we saw it. I don't remember how many wins Martin Truex Jr. had a couple of years ago when Truex looked like garbage the whole playoffs. I think he might have finished 15th or worse in the 6 races in the first 2 rounds, and still pointed his way into the round of 8 and still kind of had a shot at Martinsville to point his way into the championship 4 just based off of his pedigree in the regular season. If you can get SVG past that round of 16, guess what rounds out the round of 12? The Charlotte Roval, where he won the pole last year. It didn't work out for him in either the Cup or Xfinity race to advance him in the Xfinity playoffs or anything like that. But I mean, it's a very realistic scenario where you could see SVG sitting there with a win at the Roval that he needs to advance to the round of 8 and really upsetting this playoff format. That's the big question is, can this number 88 car be a playoff threat and be sitting in that round of 8 when we get to it in the fall?
This feels very, very familiar territory, Elliot, because I think it was, maybe this time, maybe a couple weeks later that we had that break last year. And I know we did some preview episodes of looking back at the Xfinity and the truck and the Cup championship odds. And you and I both took a nibble there at SVG, potentially putting on a run. And as you mentioned, didn't work out. The Charlotte road course didn't go his way. However, I mean, here we are in Cup, and like those aren't the worst tracks starting up. And if he can continue to build himself a little bit of a playoff point cushion, he gets through that round of 16. He's in the round of 12. Oh, he's very live. Very, very live, I think, to make a push here for the round of 8. And man, if he can not only get to Charlotte there, but I mean, like the second to last race of the season is at Martinsville. Like that is his arguably his best oval.
The week before Martinsville too. If he can get to the round of 8, Talladega is in the round of 8 this year.
Yeah.
And we have seen anybody can go in Daytona or
Yeah.
Talladega. All due respect to Harrison Burton, I feel like Shane van Gisbergen probably has a little more on the resume. And you never know, could go out there and do something really wild.
Yeah, so many comments here about SVG. Kush saying road course master, absolutely. And Stan saying, how do you feel about the field over SVG at -160? That's crazy.
I saw this bet and I took SVG. I think it was +125 on MGM. I don't have it as we'll talk about SVG obviously in the bets. I didn't have this as a separate bet, but I took SVG over the field on the plus money.
So it's just an outright, basically, is what you just another way to get.
It's SVG like +125, +130, or the field at -160.
Yeah.
And honestly, if we hadn't seen what we saw last weekend and what we saw at Mexico City, I'd absolutely take the field. But we saw him go out at Mexico City. We saw the 9 car that he's drove last week and is driving again this week win that race with Daniel Suarez. And we saw SVG win by 16.5 seconds. Then we go to Chicago, a couple guys kind of sort of close. Ty Gibbs has speed. McDowell has something break on him. Connor Zilisch could get up there. Guess who won both races and got that rugby?
Yeah.
Was Shane van Gisbergen. After the way the last couple of road courses have gone, it's silly to bet against him in any race that he's going to be in here.
Yeah, I think this is the week that he gets upended in Cup. I think Sonoma's just been a track that's been around for so long. He's never been here in Cup. So I am betting other people on the outright. I'm not going to bet against him at -160. It's just not worth the juice. But I don't hate that bet, honestly, Kush. I would think about that one. I don't hate that at all. Also, our guy Zach checking in, shouting out a couple drivers he likes on his card this week. Tyler Reddick and your guy Alex Bowman. Not bad. They're both pretty high in the projections this week. So Elliot, love the burning questions, though, man. Love all the intrigue we have kind of going down the stretch here. Real quick reminder to everyone before we get going in the Horizon forecast and break down Sonoma. If you guys enjoy this type of content, please, easiest way to support us, give this video a thumbs up. Also, make sure you're subscribing to the channel if you're new. And let us know your burning questions down in the chat, down in the comments below. We want to hear from you. And if you want a little more of us as well, check out the IBT Racing family. It's our premium community over there. We're giving you guys a lot of exclusive content, our weekly betting models. Elliot and I's cards are in there as well, and a lot of BS in between. So, Elliot, what do you say, though? Should we go ahead and fire up a little Horizon forecast action?
Yeah, hey, it's a great time over there in the Discord, and we can have the tinfoil hat conversations all the time if we want. But we do got to get to look ahead to Sonoma here in this week's Horizon forecast.
Hey, Michael, it was only 20% chance of rain. I think we got all 20.
As we look ahead to the weekend here at Sonoma in the Cup Series, you've got your 36 charters in the field, plus the 78 of Catherine Legg. And shout out to Catherine Legg for qualifying in that race last week.
Yeah.
Was able to knock out Corey Heim, both the 78 and the 66 of Josh Bilicki. Great job there. So everybody's in the field this week there. That will not be the case in Xfinity, where you have 39 cars for 38 spots. SVG is back in the 9 in the quad lock car. You see Justin Allgaier. I love how Brandt, they will use some agriculture local to the area now. They got the corn car. They had a bunch of stuff everywhere. They got the grapes on it for the wine and Sonoma. That's really cool. But nice. SVG is in the 9. Corey Day is in the 17. It's funny because crew chief Adam Wall is still suspended from Pocono. So he's still in the 3rd race of his 3-week suspension. Greg Ives will be on the box for Corey Day in the Hendrick 17. Riley Herbst is going to run in the number 19 for JGR. Could be a really good confidence booster for him. And before we get to the other road course ringers, Will Rogers, who is Eric Jones' spotter in the Cup Series, is going to race the number 70 for Cope Family Racing. Really cool opportunity for him there to get back out on the track and run in at least the okay equipment there in the Xfinity Series. But he'll have to battle through the same host of road course ringers we had last week. Connor Mosack is back. Alex LeBay, who had a decent run. Austin Green, who we'll constantly talk about here. He's one of our guys that you got to bet on every road course. Brad Perez, hoping to have a better week this week with the car in the fence last week. Sage Karam also looking for a better week. He DNQ'd in one of the Gase cars. And your guy Josh Balicki too. Don't know if you got any coin on him, but he's also entered in the race weekend as well. We'll know Friday whether or not they made it. Xfinity qualifying going to be at 4 Eastern on the CW app. They're practicing qualifying. If you're interested in the ARCA West race, that's at 8:30 on Flow. Normally there's a couple Cup or Xfinity guys that would enter in this race for some extra laps. I know in the past we've seen Bowman do it. We've seen some of the other younger drivers do it. I should have looked at this again. I think Christian Eckes might be running it. I know that there are a couple notable names that could be in that race for extra laps in Xfinity. I'll put it in the IBT Racing Family Discord after that. Go look up that entry list if you want to. That could be a fun one to watch, 8:30 on Flow. Then the big show, Saturday, you get the Cup practice and qualifying, True TV and Max, 1:35 Eastern, and your green flag for the Xfinity Series. Pit Boss Food Max 250 comes at 4:50 Eastern on the CW. Stage lengths 20, 20, and 34. And then on Sunday, you get the Cup Series green around 3:50 TNT for the regular broadcast. Max streaming for both of them. True TV, the alternate broadcast, which maybe I'll have to check out this week. I haven't watched much of the Mayor or America's Crew Chief. But it's Toyota Save Mart 350. Stage lengths 25, 30, and 55 as we head out to the beautiful wine country of Sonoma. I don't know if you've ever seen pictures of this place in the springtime when it's just the most beautiful green grass out there. Kind of stinks. We always run it in the summer when it's all dead and it's just brown out there. But I honestly couldn't imagine running Sonoma without it looking exactly as it does. Even I think it's been called the Toyota Save Mart 350 ever since we were first starting to get into this about 20 years ago.
Yeah, it's so crazy, man. Like, this is one of those events. This is one of those tracks that, I can remember my boy Jeff Gordon. Like, this is where you went. You're probably snoozing by, the third, the third, fourth quarter of this race, like it, because Jeff Gordon was out there huge lead. Rusty Wallace was, usually run top 5. Like, those are the memories I have with it. And it's just a great traditional 1.99 mile technical road course with 12 turns. If you remember back in the day, this is a traditionally longer road course. I think it's up to like 2.5 miles, but NASCAR redid their version of it. I don't even know how long ago that was, but quite a while ago. And this features the largest elevation change in the sport, 160 feet. So they're going up, they're going down, they're going all over the place here. Rod hopefully has his walking shoes on this weekend with all that change there. And primary comps, we're looking at these other traditional road courses, the Watkins Glens, Dakotas, and then I'm also factoring in secondaries, the Charlotte Roval, and then of course the Chicago Street Course as well, which, over the years, there's been a lot of debate about that, but I certainly do consider a road course kind of just a unique blend of one, Elliot.
Yeah, I would agree. We talked about it last week too. There's a lot of differences between building a track on a street course there, running an F1 track, COTA that was built for Formula One and that sort of open wheel racing, or just the good old 2 Sonomas and Watkins Glens that we have been running for multiple decades consistently. And you're right, that does give a little bit more of an advantage to the guys who've been out there. They've been there and done that. And Sonoma too. Also, you mentioned Jeff Gordon back in the early 2000s. He was the guy who dominated. Tony Stewart in the 20 car, always the guy who would dominate. But then you would get some interesting winners there. I think Martin Truex Jr. with MWR won this race. This was Tony Stewart's last win.
Yeah.
He kind of fell off in 2016. We would see some interesting winners as well. Kurt Busch almost won this race in a Phoenix Racing car. I think Clint Boyer for MWR did end up winning that race. So it may not just be the SVG Fest or the Kyle Larson Fest or anything like that. Sonoma does bring that little bit of extra fun that we would traditionally see. And don't turn off the car going uphill. Marcus Ambrose will tell you that.
Yeah, absolutely. I even remember a couple years ago when we were still, not as well versed of NASCAR bettors as I like to think, at least we are today, hitting a Martin Truex Jr. 33-1 or something wild like that back here at Sonoma. So looking at some of these trends as well for this road course to kind of tell you just that. HMS has as many all-time poles at Watkins Glen, 10, than every other driver or every other team has combined. They also have 10, so I guess it's even, you could say. But HMS certainly quick off the truck. I expect them to have good pace once again this weekend. However, each of the big 3 teams, they have won a pole in the next gen era. But it's really only those guys. So no one else as of yet beat them. We'll see if SVG can once again get a pole, and that's something we need to keep betting is SVG poles at road courses. My goodness, I thought about that.
It's all the way down to even money now, so that's tough when you can have your McDowells or your Gibbs or maybe
I thought about parlaying that for a third leg last week, and I wish I kind of would have. I thought that would have been potentially smart. And but only 2 drivers have won Sonoma back-to-back. Keep that in mind if you're liking Kyle Larson maybe this weekend. Jeff Gordon in 98 and 99, and then MTJ, as we mentioned, he had that win just a couple of years ago. Also had 2 back-to-back in 2018 and 2019. Trackhouse Racing, though, is the only non-Hendrick or JGR team to win at Sonoma since 2015, over a decade ago. It's been all HMS, it's been all JGR, except on one Sunday when Daniel Suarez got his first career win in the Cup Series. So we'll see if Trackhouse again can be that outlier. Kyle Larson and Daniel Suarez, speaking of both of those guys, they have each led 11% of their career laps run at Sonoma. Only drivers in double digits. So 11% of the laps that Daniel Suarez has run here at Sonoma, he's been out front. Same with Kyle Larson. Next gen winners at Sonoma, they've come from P5, P8, and P8 again. Truex and Suarez are those P8s. Larson was that P5. The best of pole winner, though, is finished here, Elliot. Something to keep in mind. P15 in the next gen era. Do you think that's one of those like trickery trends? It's just kind of weird stuff happening, because we know we were on a Joey Logano outright last year, I think at 40, 50 to 1. He went and pulled it, but got back in traffic, didn't end up so well for him. And he was just a long line of continued pole winners not doing well here in wine country.
Yeah, I'd have to look more closely into those particular results. It could be a deal where a guy really sets up for qualifying and sends it, and then when they get back in dirty air, it's just totally gone. Or they do it and play it to go and win a stage, and then kind of fall back, and it doesn't work out there. In terms of Larson or Suarez, though, I don't think either of them are going to be a factor. We already know Suarez and Trackhouse are splitting off. And Larson, he's been out to lunch for ever since the Coke 600.
Yeah.
I've not seen any sort of Kyle Larson domination, but we're still getting Kyle Larson type numbers on the books. I'm not touching the 5 with a 10-foot pole for quite some time, I feel like.
No, I'm not either, man. He's been very, very disappointing as of late, I would definitely say. And hey, shout out to our girl Dee in the chat with a $50 super sticker. Thank you so much, Dee. We appreciate it. This goes a long way to us as we continue to try to expand some of our on-track coverage and go ahead and purchase more giveaways for the IBT Racing family. So thank you so much, Dee. We appreciate it a lot, Elliot.
Yeah, certainly much appreciated there. Shout out to anyone who's willing to give us some funds. Remember, you can hop in the IBT Racing family as well if you want some insight on some more of the bets. As we move to the iFantasyRace.com Asterisk Mark Driver of the Week, there were a few different options here. I felt like going with kind of an unconventional one in Kyle Busch, because it's a very realistic scenario that could happen to anybody in any position where you have anybody close racing you when you get to the last lap, because it's what happened to Kyle Busch last year. Clear to cut, top 5 contender all race long, was running in 5th, stumbles on fuel a little bit, and Ross Chastain gets into him, spins him around, and he ends up 12th, which is still not a terrible day for Kyle Busch nowadays, which is something that's wild to say. But he would have been in that top 5 if not for a wild last lap that, like I said, could happen to anybody as the racing gets closer and it's harder to pass. And I'm sure after running, cutthroat with everybody all day long, when you get to that last lap, you're going to be willing to shove somebody if you have to.
Yeah, man, I sigh because Kyle Busch and me just have not got along this season from a betting perspective, particularly because, I'm on him at Mexico City in a matchup. He has a ton of speed, doesn't know how to break it going into the wet corner, ends up out of the race. Had him in fantasy that day, just boned a bunch of lineups. And then come last week, top 4 in the projections. I put in the IBT Racing family, I think on Monday, I kind of like Kyle Busch this week. He's projecting out pretty good for us. And I just didn't have the stones to lay anything on the plus 210, I think, that you got last week. And then I was like, oh, man, I'm going to regret that. He qualifies well. And then, of course, he almost wrecked himself out at one point, spun out. And I was like, oh, there's Kyle Busch. That's why I didn't bet on him. And then he gets all the way back into the top 10. So I just can't get this guy right. And I feel like this will be another one of those races.
Yeah, had a pit penalty as well, but the strategy just worked out in their favor to get him on the fresher tires and up into, I think, like I said, the top 5. A pretty good finish last week. And yeah, one of the bets I was luckily able to hit. And one of those bets that, hey, I might just be on here in a couple of minutes. Let's go ahead and lock in our bets for the week in our parking garage props. As we look to our impressions of the books this week, I liked some of the numbers we got. I just feel like things were so similar to last week that it was hard to find some differential. But like we talked about earlier, the one thing that has got me madder than you know what at these books is losing that Xfinity top 10 market. It just makes me so sad. So it's such a great way to win money, especially on the road courses. I think the books figured it out. I'm hoping when we get back to the ovals, they'll have it back and we can start getting on some coin for your Harry Burtons or Daniel Dyes of the world. But I think my Austin Green top 10 bet, unfortunately, might have been one and done, at least for now.
Again, Amazing Grace, how sweet the sound that saved a wretch like betting on Austin Green. Yeah, no, it's sad. It sucks. I actually did like the cup market though this week a lot. Like I thought SVG being so dominant and like there's no him and Zilich have gone to the point even with each other in the same race. The only way you can bet them now is outrights or like head to head. So that's kind of a bummer that like I used to love smacking on like a nice SVG top 3 at like even money or minus. I'd lay some juice on it. Can't really do that now. So that's kind of a bummer. But it's like it's made some great value down the board, I think, and we'll get into it. So I'm really excited with some of the plays I have that I think SVG being such, probably the heaviest cup favorite I've ever seen. Have you ever seen a heavier cup favorite?
I don't think so. I think the only thing that rivals it is Austin Hill at the super speedways. And I love a lot of the value down the board too. But that does not mean that it doesn't mean we can ignore SVG and the Kiwis down there. Running it back with the Flight of the Concords and the Shane van Gisbergen with the rugby kick. I think it's going into the Sonoma stands as well. And this is a parlay. It's all the way down now at 3-1. Last week we got it almost plus 500. I think it was plus 471 or something like that. This week it's 3-1 and I'm on it just as much. It's just so stupid if you don't have them on your card. Even at these ridiculous prices, the ridiculous talent will do that to you. And it's one of those, I love a bunch of stuff down board. I've got money on a bunch of stuff down board and I like the value there. But SVG, I've got this parlay here. I don't think I have anything separate on his cup outright yet, but I probably will. Mm-hmm. That bet I mentioned earlier, BetMGM, the SVG versus the field, SVG at plus 125. I'm on that too. And then I've got some exactas that, man, last week I thought about it with the 88 and 54, would have really nailed it. That's at 20-1. And then as well as the 88 and the 71 at plus 1,700. I got little sprinkles on there too. Because I feel like, especially last week, we had it pretty well handicapped. We knew SVG was going to be the favorite. Yeah. We knew McDowell was going to have speed. We knew Gibbs was going to have speed. We kind of thought Chris Bell would have speed. That didn't quite work out. We'll talk about him more in just a second. But regardless of all this, you cannot ignore Shane van Gisbergen on your cards. They're juicy numbers, but I'm drinking all the juice on the Kiwi.
Yeah, I've been debating how to get invested with him. I actually currently have no SVG on my card, but I'm kind of just waiting to see. I'm trying to see if maybe we'll get a boost. BetRivers usually throws out a Sunday NASCAR boost. Caesars the past couple of weeks have been throwing one out. Yeah, I think if anything, I'm just going to drink the juice on the minus 140 top Xfinity line. Honestly, I don't know what it is. I don't know.
I feel like you're getting the Austin Hill syndrome that I would always have.
I know.
You'd be laid down at like a plus 125. I'm like, what in the world are you doing?
Yeah.
It's super speedway. There's so much chaos that can happen. And what happens? It's Hill and Love, just like it didn't work out for me at Atlanta. Let's ignore that when I finally did bets. We bet some Hill and Love there. It's just one of those deals where it doesn't matter how low the price is. You could give me this could be an even money parlay. I'm probably still putting some coin on it. We've just seen him this year be this dominant. Mm-hmm. If he didn't have the resume, if he'd won Mexico City in a close one and not won last week, be a whole different story. But he's opened up the can of whoop him. He's more comfortable in the car than ever. He's not even nervous when he comes to these road courses. He's nervous on the ovals, and he's out there having a great time. Up all night, sending out tweets, celebrating. Hey, it's 4 a.m. I'm not going to be available in the morning. Try me in the afternoon. Do you remember sending that tweet out, Shane? No, I don't. I was too smashed. So he's going to have another great weekend this weekend, I feel like. And even drinking the juice, man, you only pay the juice if you lose. I'm on SVG again in multiple ways, as I said.
Mm-hmm. Drew checking in on Facebook. What's up, Drew? Thanks for joining us, man. Saying love the graphics, guys. Make sure coming over to YouTube and hanging out with us as well, Drew. We appreciate you, man. And then Andrew's saying I might get destroyed this week, just not as high on SVG. I'm kind of there with you, bro. I'm there with you.
I'm not saying I don't understand, and we'll talk. There's a lot of favorites here. We have 3 other outrights to talk about. This is not going to be an SVG or bust week all the way across the board, but he's the favorite, and I can't. I'm not missing out on it on the road courses. Every single road course. Until SVG goes and does whatever he does next, I'm putting some coin on him. The Trackhouse cars are good enough on road courses too. Both Chastain and Suarez picking up wins on road courses when I really didn't think of either of them as big road course drivers. He doesn't have the colleague excuse of being in their building and getting their curse. He's got that Trackhouse equipment, and that's SVG. It's SVG, but I like these other guys too. But it's SVG.
We got Bob in the chat about to blow an aneurysm because he's also on Chastain. I'm on Chastain. I originally bet Ross Chastain this week, 26-1. And then thankfully ESPN bet allowed me to cash that out because I found a 30-1 later in the week on FanDuel. So shout out FanDuel, shout out ESPN bet for giving me my full. I went about 0.6 of a unit on this. So again, these aren't big bets, but these are still nice chunks of change if these come to the window, right? So Ross Chastain, he's a part of that one outlier team, Trackhouse Racing. There's one here in the past decade other than JGR and HMS. Chastain, number 1 in the IBT projections this week. At Sonoma in particularly, number 3 in the next gen average finish at 7.3, 100% top 10 rate in that span. Also number 5 in the total speed rankings from ifantasyrace.com in that span as well. Better road course racer than given credit for. Top 11 in average running position at all 3 road courses so far this season. Also 8th best average finish turning left and right since 2024. So again, I originally bet him 26-1, got him now 30-1. I feel great about that. And I think if anyone can catch SVG, if he slips up, if something happens, maybe something happens equipment wise, like it did to Michael McDowell last week, maybe he gets banged up or penalty on pit road, something can happen. And I think if someone can take advantage of him, I think it's the guy in the same equipment who has the same data as this guy. Give me Ross Chastain, the Melon Man, 30-1.
I will say, though, if it's an equipment problem for SVG, you'd be pretty worried if you were in the one camp, because if Shane broke it, I think Ross is going to break it also. I don't hate the bet, but I do. It's the 3 outrights that we're going to talk about that are non-SVG. It's got the longest odds because it's got far and away the least chance of happening. No insult to Ross there. He's good at the road courses.
And
it surprised me he was at the top of the model. Again, SVG brought down.
Just consistent, yeah.
He's been super consistent, SVG, not having the cup stats at Sonoma. If you want a better look at our model article out for usually Friday mornings. I think we put it out early last week, but Friday mornings I give you a breakdown of some outrights and explain what we put into the model, as well as our top 10 to give you that little preview if you're not sold on it yet. Chastain is the top of the model, but he's only at like an 83%. Yep. Normally, if the model is really showing some clear favorites, you're going to see guys in the mid 90s, high 90s, down to about you want to be in the 80s, maybe at like 7 or 8. Chastain's in the 80s at 1, and then you get down to the 60s by the time you get to the top 10. Yeah. Well, what that shows me, I'm no mathematician, I'm no expert. I didn't do very well in calculus when I got to a senior year of high school. But what it does show me is that there's a lot more variation in the model, and that Chastain's solid. I just feel like for an outright, it's a little too long. Yeah. What I'm looking for, if it's not going to be SVG, we got to go back to McNasty. Michael McDowell, 12-1 over on BetRivers, and that was a better number than I could find most places where he's been anywhere from plus 950 to plus 1100. I like it at the 12-1 that I got on in BetRivers. We saw it early at Chicago. SVG obviously says he's never running at full throttle, but I'm sure nobody is running it full bore in stage 1 because you're going to have breaks. But McDowell qualified right there, gets him on the restart to start it, or on the start of the race, and leads the first 30-some laps. He had the car to potentially get to him, but throttle cable issues knocking him out and pushing that 71 behind the wall. And this isn't just the road course prowess for McDowell. It's Sonoma prowess for him, because in the next gen, he has got a ridiculous average finish. I think only Buescher is better than him. Yep. The last 3 years, P2 last year, P7 the year before, and then a P3. So 2 out of 3 for being on the podium here. 108.6 average driver rating, which is a very good number. I found that on driveraverages.com, another good site to look at these stats here. And I'm sure the total speed ranking too, I don't have that in front of me, but it has to be solid here with those kind of runs. And that was in front row equipment that we just talked about is maybe not so good at the moment. Spire, what have we been talking about? Okay, McDowell led the first X laps to Chicago. Hocevar has been qualified in the top 10 winning races. I feel like he's in a better car this year. He's got to be feeling confident after a good early start to the race. I feel like he put on the record, he said, it sucks because you want to cry because if we don't have that issue, we're winning the race. So it's a confident team, a confident group, a fast car, and a great track. I think that if you're going to have anyone knock down SVG, at least fairly, I feel like, Ty Gibbs gets to him, he's going to shove SVG in the tire barriers. Michael McDowell, I think, will race him mostly fair, and the 71 car could just as easily be taking that sip of wine in victory lane.
Yeah. I like Michael McDowell, again, number 2 in the projections. To me, it was just like I found better value down the board because, I like Michael McDowell at a 14. I think if it was a 14 or a 15, I can maybe find him. So I still might be getting invested with McNasty if he doesn't unload absolute craziness where, he is sitting P1 and he goes 6-1 or 7-1, something like that. At that point, I'm just getting in on SVG because his number is going to go up. So I'm definitely I have an eye on him. I definitely like what he's been doing lately. And again, was on that top 10 last week on him. And that felt like the lock of the day. And things happen kind of with Spire Motorsports one way or another. That's kind of what, is holding me back at a 12-1 number. I just need a little bit more. But I do love Michael McDowell. Again, 82%, number 2 in the IBT projections this week.
Yeah, and I don't blame you too. I understand the wanting to go for a top 5 or a top 10, but I've got that with other guys down the board. McDowell's the guy who I think can go after him. And this guy, the last outright that we have for the week on your side with Bell, I just don't trust him enough, but I'm ready and willing to hear the argument because I know the road course speed has been there for the 20.
The argument's pretty simple here, Jim. Christopher Bell should realistically never be 22-1 on a road course. I don't remember what we picked him up. I think maybe we got him at 12 or 13 earlier this season at Coda, and that felt like a stretch. 22-1 feels way too long.
Yeah, and I say that, and I hopped on him Sunday morning. I think it was 20-1 for Chicago, and I did put some on there too. So it is a damn good number.
And specifically because he has a 12.7 average finish at these road courses since 2024. That includes 3 runner-up finishes and 1 win in 8 races. That means he's either finishing first or second 50% of the time right now over these past 2 seasons. And he's never been absolutely awesome in wine country, right? 12 in the next gen average finishes, 11th in the total speed rankings in that span. So he's not been an absolute, workhorse here, but at the same time, he did have the best average running position among active drivers here in 2023. Of course, MTJ had the best, but among actives, he was the best that day. And he also falls into this bucket for HMS and JGR, this dominant couple teams that have been winning here over the past decade. 3rd in the projections, top 5 average running position at 2 or 3 road courses so far this season. Yeah, I'm in on Bell, man. Again, this is a 0.6 of a unit. This is just a little flyer in case if someone unseats him. I really think it's going to be Ross or Bell or McDowell. I just can't, I like the 22 and a 30 better than a 12 here.
And it's tough because I feel like McDowell's got a better shot to win than these guys. Like I said, I liked Bell's stats enough to kind of to not get in on him really pre-race, but to get him Sunday morning at a 20-1 or whatever I put it at. I thought Bell was going to be better, but even before he ran into some mechanical issues, got roughed around a little bit. He wasn't really.
I already got CLV. It's already down to 21. I already got in there early, baby. Let's go.
I don't hate it. It's just tough for me to trust them because we just had a road course last week. I feel like there's not going to be that much difference, and it was the same stats. I mean, Bell had led 38% of the total laps at Chicago Street Course, and was really not even close to the lead. So it's just tough for me to trust him. I'm willing to miss out on Bell this week after what we saw last week.
Let's go to placement props, Elliot. What do you have?
Yeah, so I'll run through pretty quick because we've already talked about him a good bit. We already have all the stats breakdown from last week when I had bets on both of them. I'm not on the Ty Gibbs outright, but I'm on the top 5 at 2-1. He's the best road course racer out there right now, not named Shane van Gisbergen.
Fastest.
Definitely the fastest. Finished 2nd at Chicago, and he's really wishing that SVG had just stayed in those stinking supercars because Ty Gibbs would probably be a multi-time cup winner with how well he's doing on the road courses. I never thought we would say this, but I said it last week. If it's going to be a win for him, it's going to be at a road course. He's going to be back on my card at Watkins Glen too. I'm eager to see what Ty can do. The stats at Sonoma aren't really there. He ran into some trouble last year and was, I think, 15th or something in his rookie season. So we don't have the Sonoma stats, but we have the road course stats, and I'm all in on the what have you done for me lately. Just the same as I am with Kyle Busch, running back that top 10 this week in that zone car. Plus 130, not as good of a number as the 2-1 last week, but with what we saw from him last week that we talked about, qualifying fairly decent, getting spun out early. Then ended up going to the back on a pit penalty, even to the point where he got black flagged to come into the pits there. Kyle Busch rebounds. The strategy works out. Ends up getting to P5 there. Could have gotten up a little further. That last lap caution with Cody Ware, we didn't even touch on that. We won't touch on it anymore. We don't have the time. But that was ridiculous to wait till the white flag on that with how hard of a hit that took.
Thank you, though. Thankful they did. From a betting perspective, bad for Cody Ware.
But it worked to not have chaos, but he cracked Cody Ware's Hans device. That was insane.
Yeah.
But you could have seen some of those guys on the tires move up even further. But for Rowdy, coming out of there with a P5 is great. Coming out of there with a great race at Coda. And we didn't really see what he had at Mexico City because of the rain. So as long as it stays dry in California, which usually stays dry in California, I feel like Kyle Busch for a top 10, pretty good bet to make.
Yeah, I like both those as well. And I think you're also squad riding with me on this Ryan Preece top 10 plus 450 at Bet365. So I was staring at him 4-1 earlier this week at FanDuel. And then I went back to bet this number yesterday, and it was all the way down to plus 275. I was like, dang it, I missed it. And then travel over to our friends at Bet365, and it's plus 450. So I'm so excited about this one. We mentioned this earlier when we were talking about Ryan Preece and this RFK team. 8 top 10 so far this season, 9 if you count Talladega. That's over 40% of the time he's finishing top 10. So if you're getting a 4-1, 3-1 rest of the season on Ryan Preece just about anywhere other than maybe a super speedway, I would bet that, man. I think you have to. And I'm really happy with the plus 450 on a guy who has a 12.2 average finish over the past 2 months, 5 top 10s in that span, 7 top 15. So he's doing this so consistently as of late. 11.0 average finish on his last 2 road courses as well during that time. 5th in the average running position last week at Chicago. 9.6. Ryan Preece, who would have thought, man? I mean, he was a bullet last week. 14th best Sonoma next gen finish, 15.5. He's 16th in our projection, so just outside that pay window. But again, his stats are right. The equipment is good. He's been a top 10 guy as of lately, and I think when you get this number, you got to hit it, man.
Yeah, it's one of those almost like the JHN top 10s that we keep getting at FanDuel that are, another plus 300, plus 400 past what the rest of the books are, is what this is for Preece. Great run last week, like you said, and just the guy who the books, a lot of them really haven't caught on to him being a good road course driver, because even at the plus 260 or whatever the other books have, I'm probably still taking it too with how good the 60 car has been. Like you said, one of those guys that is consistently putting himself in and around the top 10, which makes this a great number, regardless of the track type.
Yeah, 100% agreed with you. I think I got one more top 10 for us to round out placement props.
Yep.
Give me Ryan Blaney top 10 plus 150 at ESPN bet. I'm going to unit on this one. Just sneaky good at Sonoma, man. 10th best next gen average finish, 15.0 with 2 top 10s in that span. The 31st place finish that kind of really dragged its average down, that he got cleaned out in that race very early on, didn't have a chance. Also top 4 among active drivers in the 2024 and 2022 race in average running position. Ryan Blaney's slowly made himself a really good road course racer. Top 10 in average running position at 2 of 3 road courses so far this season, 11th in the other. So he's been right up there, man. And Blaney, he's coming into a place after having a 50% top 10 rate at road courses in general since last year. Just no top 10 so far this season. He's been right around P12, P14 the last 2 runs that he's been out there in Mexico, in Chicago. P7 in the projection. So I'm just going to take a subtle hit, the plus 150. This isn't a gainer. I could see Blaney finishing 11th or 12th, but I think if he has a good qualifying effort, if he can dodge some of the chaos that could ensue early on, if you're racing back with guys like Hocevar and Ricky Stenhouse and all those shenanigans, it could come back to bite me. But plus 150 feels like a fine number.
Yeah, and I don't hate it. We see with the guys like Blaney that don't have super great road course prowess that it's tough for me to really get on them, because they're
better than you thought, though.
There are so many guys at good numbers that you want to go for. But
Yeah.
I would have said the same about Denny Hamlin last week, who ended up P4, having a pretty good run. And like you said, Blaney, I think he won a stage, did pretty well last week at Chicago. You're not going to see many plus money top 10s on him the rest of the year for Blaney, so you may as well get on him while you got him.
Speaking of Denny Hamlin, let's go right into our matchups here, Elliot. My hammer of the week, it's Joey Logano minus 115 at ESPN bet against Denny Hamlin. I went 4 units on this. I'm not shy about it. And this line has moved. It's now minus 125. So I'm not the only one who's betting Joey Logano. I'm fading Denny Hamlin, like just straight to the ocean this week, man. I really think, coming off that P4, everyone feels good about him. But 35.0 average finish in the next gen era at Sonoma. That's the worst in the Cup Series. Albeit he did blow up in that one race that MTJ won in 23. He had a ton of speed off the truck. So that probably would have been a better finish. But I know everyone's super high on him, but I just think we got to keep in mind that was his best road course finish, his only road course finish, a P14 or better since 2024. 21.7 average finish. I'm not super high on Joey Logano, but he did pull this race last year, 12th in the projections, 17.8 road course average finish in that span, 5-2 against Denny Hamlin, also 3-0 obviously against him at Sonoma as well, 13.7 average finish. So I just think this is a really good price. I don't think this should have been a pick 'em, and obviously the books don't either, now moving this line to minus 125.
I don't hate it, but I would have liked it a lot more if we didn't have Denny go out and run P4 at Chicago. after really.
He's always good at Chicago though. He pulled that the first year we were there. I just think he has a feel for that. I don't think he's ever had a feel for Sonoma really.
Yeah, I can understand it. I do like it better at the -115 than the -125. We'll do our race matchups before rounding out Cup with my in-season challenge picks. My matchup this week, just on the Sonoma side, it's not as big of a sip of juice as I thought it would be with that big Sips number 16 car. That would look nice in victory lane. I don't think we'll get that far, but I'm going to take Allmendinger over Reddick at a +130 on Bet365. I didn't even really want to fade Reddick that much. It just kind of happened. Reddick had a pretty good run last week. Ended up with
not good here either.
P3. But yeah, not great at Sonoma. And other than last week, that was the first good race from Reddick in a few months. They've had some speed, but have had things just fall apart or just not really run nearly as well as they should. I think Allmendinger, last week changed things a lot for me with him. Had a pretty good run there. Had a time where he was kind of sort of running an SVG as much as you could say anyone's running an SVG. Ended up finishing P6 and honestly may have been his best Cup road course race in a couple of years for AJ Allmendinger. I got faith in him. He's got the faith to get up there, and get it done because it's what he has to do to make the playoffs. And like I said with the video that we did at Pocono for the qualifying with Gregson's MillerTech scheme, a nice car is going to add a couple miles an hour of speed, in my opinion. So Allmendinger on the plus money over Reddick.
Yeah, cool with it, 100%. I agree. I'm fading Reddick a little bit this week. Won't be in any of my fantasy lineups or on my betting card.
Yeah, I can understand that. You got one more matchup here. Already the guy who we talked about earlier.
Yeah, Christopher Bell, I don't need to harp on him again. He is 6 in the projection. Somehow was the underdog in a matchup against William Byron, who's 10 spots below him in 16th. And I was thinking for a long time I was going to go smash that Bell top 10 line, same price, -110. But, Bell has finished P9 here the last couple of years, so I could see him finish in P11. I think that's in the range of outcomes. So I really like him, though, against William Byron. He's 2-1 against him here in the next gen era. Also, Byron in that span, 17.7 average finish. Byron also just 2-6 against Bell at road courses since 2024, 0-3 this season, losing 4 straight if you're going back to last year as well. Byron just hasn't looked as sharp at road courses so far this season compared to Christopher Bell. Had a nice run at Coda. So again, instead of smacking that top 10 Bell line, I'm just going to fade William Byron here against him.
And that's a good idea. Byron is fully in that summer slump, could barely even turn a lap around Chicago in practice. Before having to go on the wall. They're fully in that summer slump over there in the 24 camp. So I'm not interested at all. And I might even take this bet as well. But I would recommend you guys hop on these in-season challenge picks that I've got. We're down to the final 8, and it really has been a chaotic format that has led to a storyline of none of the final 8 having a race win this year. And I think it's a win-win either way for NASCAR because they could have had, we have our best drivers facing off. That's great. Or we have these 8 guys we don't really get to talk about that much that we now get to go out and market as, hey, we got a chance at $1 million. And like I said, it'll be a pretty cool accomplishment for whichever one of these 8 guys wins it. I feel like it'll be one of those things that maybe it's corny, but maybe you look back and say, yeah, remember he won that in-season challenge. That's pretty neat because I don't know if you see a lot of future champions on this list. But regardless, as we go into the 4 matchups, I got to slam the minus money basically across the board this week. And it starts with Alex Bowman over Ty Dillon, -270 on Bet365. That's a steep glass of juice to drink, but I'm taking it because the Cinderella story ends here. The 48
my 400 to 1 ticket, you're pouring it. I got a cash out. Should I take the cash out is what you're telling me.
What again? Sorry.
The 400 to 1 Ty Dillon.
Oh, the 400 to 1. No, you hold that for sure.
That's what I think. I think I have to hold it.
With Bowman, he's the only driver short of SVG to finish top 10 on all the road courses this year, but he could get the Ty Dillon kiss of death as to where who he's finished or who he's been matched up against has not finished the race. Yeah. Mixed with the Bubba Wallace kiss of death of, hey, I'm mad that you took me out in Chicago the last 2 years, so I'm going to ruin your race. Could continue Ty's trying to just get a finish, take your 25th, and go into the Final Four. Could happen, but I think the Cinderella story ends there. Legacy matchup, that's going to be pretty fun. The 42 and the 43. It's JHN at -145 on BetMGM that I'm taking. Jones would have been out last week. Late in the race, a lap down, had some damage. But Ricky Stenhouse Jr., who he was matched up with, got caught up in that Chastain and Logano funny business. Another thing we didn't really touch on. And it's been JHN who has gone above and beyond more often in the Legacy camp. They both running pretty well, but it's usually been the 42 ahead of the 43 in most of those deals over the summer. At Chicago for JHN, pretty decent day. P15 and beating Chase, out-dueling him at the end of the race. Pretty impressive. And like I said, I'm once again on a monster plus 950 top 10 for him here with a little sprinkle on FanDuel because FanDuel just does not like them some JHN, and I'm looking forward to make us some money again. Plus money. The only plus money I'm taking this week is Ryan Preece over Tyler Reddick.
I like that one.
Like I said, I'm not trying to fade Reddick, but Preece has just impressed me so much more than Reddick has. He's been strong on road courses lately. He had the P15 at Mexico when he won a stage or came close to winning a stage, ran well, and then was 7th last week. I know Reddick, P3 at Chicago, P3 at COTA. Didn't have the speed at Mexico, though. I think it's worth the play to get some plus money on my card, which I've hit a plus money, multiple plus monies each of the first 2 rounds. I had to have it here because it's Ty Gibbs at minus 270 over Zane Smith that I've got as well. Buyer beware, though. I have wholeheartedly picked against Zane Smith each of the first 2 rounds when he was up against Cindric in round 1, and then somebody that was really good in round 2. I can't remember off the top of my head. But like I said, with Ty Dillon, I think the upset ends here. I think you're going to see Gibbs fight for the win, and you're going to see Zane Smith not, because the 54 is hungrier than ever. I think that Cinderella story ends, which gives you a final 4 at the Monster Mile of the 42, the 48, the 54, and the 60.
Also had JHN in my final 4. Just want to shout out JHN. Appreciate you. I like the plays, Elliot. Let's go ahead. Let's round out the show here in the last couple of minutes. I think we each have one Xfinity Series play for Saturday Shingding out there in beautiful wine country.
It'll be fun to watch, and I'll give you the floor first.
Yeah, so matchup for me, 2 units down. Taylor Gray minus 115 at Caesars against Sammy Smith. Taylor Gray, just a really good road course racer. Got involved in a wreck in Chicago, but was P2 in Mexico City, tracking Suarez for the win, P7 at COTA. Also P2 in his only 2024 Truck Series start on a road course as well at COTA. Sammy Smith, fringe top 10 driver at road courses, 11th at COTA, 10th at Mexico, 7th at Chicago. So I understand if you don't want to fade Sammy Smith here. I just think his upside's capped a little bit. He's always a guy when you're watching too, a little bit out of control, going off track, doing some funny things back there. And finishes the 33rd and 9th here the past 2 years for Sammy Smith. So kind of mid. I think Taylor Gray is better than mid. I think he's above average. I think he beats Sammy Smith here, minus 115 at Caesars.
I would agree, and I think last week should have been better, but you're right, had to go to a backup car, ended up crashing out. Not his best week. He'll want a rebound. As we rounded out the show, it's Austin Green in the Jordan car, the road course king. I was on him last year. All I wanted was the top 10s. I got it at Mexico City. Absolutely nailed it, of course. Then they took that from me. But shout out ESPN Bet, because they've put him in matchups the last couple weeks. Had him over Brandon Jones last week, and I got him over Carson Quapple this week. This started yesterday at plus 110, and I was stoked about it. Threw a decent unit share on it. And then today it's up to plus 120, so I doubled down on it. They both run pretty well at road courses all year. They both run into issues, though. Austin Green, big trouble at COTA. Carson Quapple had the same thing happen, though. We've seen Austin Green. He's been there and done that. Carson Quapple has run into issues and wasn't really a factor much at Chicago. Had trouble, knocked him out of good finishes at COTA and Mexico City. I'm taking the guy who's been there and done that. The kid who is starting to get better on ovals, and with how good he is at road courses, I think this is a name you're going to hear for a while, at least in Xfinity. Austin Green, especially on the road courses. If they're going to keep giving us matchups, I'm taking him over just about anybody in the field that he'd be matched up with. And I love getting into plus money too.
I absolutely love it, man. Great play. I wish we could get those top 10s, but maybe one day we'll keep flicking the lighters until then and serendipity. But Elliot, great program. Thank you all so much for riding with us. If you've been with us this long, please give this video a thumbs up and make sure you're subscribing to the channel so you don't miss any of the great content we have for you. NFL betting, college football betting, if you're into PGA betting, and of course, I know you guys like racing betting, so you're here on the Backroad every Thursday, 8:30 p.m. Eastern time. We also have our entertainment betting show as well, giving out some good picks for movies, music, everything in between over there on Popcorn Root Beer, right here on the In Between Media YouTube channel. Check out the website, inbetweenmedia.com. We got great written content and some live events coming on for Canton, Ohio at the Fans Football Expo in just a couple of weeks. So hope to hang out with you there, Elliot, and excited for everything to come, especially this weekend out in beautiful wine country at Sonoma Raceway.
It may not be wine, but hey, cheers to all of you, and thanks for rolling on down the back road with us. We'll see you next time on the Backroad.